Welcome to UNCAGED. Today we're speaking with Nick Schroeder. Now, Nick has a proven track record in the customer service and sales space, and we're going to be talking about some of the work that he's done in developing and shaping contact center work, contact center agents, and building that area forward. He's currently the executive director at T-Tech Digital, but we're going to be talking about the space more broadly than that. Before we get into the world of customer service management, one that I have had many experiences with myself, tell us a little bit about you, Nick. Tell us about your background and your career.
Absolutely. Thank you. My background is I'm originally from Minnesota. I was born and raised here. I went to the University of Minnesota and I studied entrepreneurship there.
Nice.
So I was really interested in learning how to run new businesses. And for about the first 10 years of my career, that's what I did. I ran a professional development training program where I would teach college students to run their own small business. And over the course of that, I helped about 300 college students start up and successfully run their own companies, which was, that was something that I was really proud of. And it gave me a lot of opportunity to see how businesses succeed, how they fail, and to get a lot of reps in from an entrepreneurship perspective. So that was a big part of my career. And then I recently switched into tech. So a couple of years ago, I made the transition. And now I work at T-Tech Digital, as you mentioned. Yeah. I focus on contact center and customer experience and helping companies to provide exceptional experiences for their stakeholders, customers, and employees. So that's what I'm up to these days.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an exciting space to play in. I mean, a lot of the things that we read about with AI, et cetera, touch your world directly. But tell me a little bit about what is exciting you about the work that you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, I'm really excited about how technology is enabling experiences for customers to really move to a completely new level, right? In the business world right now, if you talk to C-level leaders, you're going to hear a lot of experience titles. So agent experience, member experience, customer experience, patient experience. We even hear the government now talking about citizen experience. So everybody's thinking about this experience economy and how they can win over customers and differentiate from their competitors based off of experience. And I think that the cool part about that and what's really exciting for me is that technology has enabled some really unique experiences to be created and for those experiences to be created at scale. And that's something that hasn't really been possible before. Experiences used to be based on individual interactions with people, and they still are to a large extent, but for a long time, that was really hard to replicate and scale. And technology is enabling us to do that at a much more rapid rate and much more effectively than it has in the past. And that's really exciting. So that's where I'm spending a lot of my time right now.
It's great. I mean, we are at an inflection point for sure in the space. I managed a business several years ago that was a player in the contact center world. And I do remember it's kind of like one of those things today that's almost a harbinger of what was going to happen. At one point, we received an offer for the whole contact center business from an AI company.
Oh, yeah?
They just wanted the data. They just wanted to hear all of the data and just kind of learn how they could figure out ways to impact it, make it more efficient, improve it, et cetera. Quite an amazing thing. At the time, we were like, that's crazy, but today, obviously, it makes complete sense. I mean, when you think about the companies that you work with, the customers out there that are out there, what are some of the challenges that they're undergoing as they're trying to get their head around this experience that you're talking about?
Well, I think that number one is, a lot of businesses are working off of legacy siloed systems. And, this isn't a new idea of bringing systems together, but when it comes to providing a good customer experience and a good agent experience for those people who are taking phone calls, it's really important that those systems can communicate. So an example, is if most businesses have cloud-based CRM systems now. We're up to almost 85% of CRMs are cloud-based, but most businesses are still on legacy on-premise contact center systems. So what ends up happening is those two don't play very nice together, right? So they may not communicate back and forth as effectively as they could. And as a result, if you call a business and they don't have that integration set up, they might not recognize who you are. They might not recognize your phone number. You may not be able to access that data cleanly from a reporting perspective. So you're missing out on a lot of data-driven insights. So from a consolidation of your tech stack and data perspective, I think that that's a huge challenge that a lot of companies are facing right now,
Yeah.
especially with all of, you just mentioned AI companies, right? They're popping up all over the place, and they're really good at marketing and sales. And
Mm.
so, I see a lot of executives getting into meetings with companies, and they might buy a solution and they try to bolt it on, but it doesn't bolt on the way they wanted it to. And then
Yeah.
they call us and they say, hey, can you guys help us get this to work the way that we want it to? So I think that's another big challenge, is just getting all of our systems to play nicely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the integration element is certainly understated. I also think that one of the things that I see constantly is that the way platform companies sell themselves, they often talk about the benefits of the use of that platform, but what they kind of discount is the actual expertise it takes to optimize and use the system,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
in the most optimal way. And so there's always that disconnect. I see it a lot of times with platforms as they get rolled out in various businesses. Very exciting when people start to use it, but then we look back and we find out that maybe 2% of a company is actually using that tool,
Yeah.
right? And it's just really important, I think, for us to remember that technology is not just an answer in and of itself, where it
Yeah.
definitely requires training, requires what you just kind of were going through, that integration element, et cetera.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I mean, one of the things that you talked about before that clearly brought you a lot of joy and was a passion point for you was helping other entrepreneurs. But tell me a little bit about what drives you. I mean, I always kind of try to understand like what gets people up in the morning to go to work and keep doing what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a huge part of my life was helping college students through that program and getting to help them get their first lead, hire their first employee, manage their first projects. That was all, a really great experience. And it's something that I wasn't really ready to give up. It was one of my biggest sort of points of hesitation when I was thinking about changing industries, is that I was
Mm,
worried I would miss that. So, now in my job, I've been really happy that I still get to do a lot of the high level strategy and analysis that I really loved about entrepreneurship. So, for example, when I meet with a customer, a lot of times, what we're doing is we're looking at how they want to compete in the marketplace, how their competitors are currently operating, and then trying to figure out a way to bridge that gap and make them more competitive.
mhm.
So industry analysis, market analysis, competitive analysis, and then figuring out how we can help them bridge that gap. So I still get to do a lot of that, analytical, strategic work, and there's still a competitive aspect. One thing that I really loved about entrepreneurship is that it's competitive. It feels like a sport.
Mhm.
And I think sales in a lot of ways is the same way, going out there and if you do a good job and bring a client a lot of value, you get a lot of value back. So there's a big potential, wins that you can have, and the stakes are pretty high, which creates an environment where it's really important to do well. And I like to think that I thrive in that kind of environment. I love playing sports, played sports all my life growing up, and when I got into business, I was pretty encouraged when I realized that business is a lot like a sport.
Yeah, I mean, I think, one of the things that you mentioned is that the world is focused on the experience. And
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, it's a book that came out, many, many moons ago now, the experience economy, but it certainly has played out for sure. And I think that the customer contact space is one of those things that is thought about, but sometimes not thought about deeply enough because you are the coal face of the company.
Yeah.
You are the brand touch point. It's, they'll spend $10 million on an ad, but
Yeah.
maybe $10 million on the customer contact element might make a lot more sense
Yeah.
because honestly, when it's done right, it matters. I am loyal for life with a brand that does that right. It's incredible. What are some of the kind of things that you think about when you're trying to scale these types of solutions to make it consistent, to make it kind of like pop for somebody?
Well, I think first of all, you make a really good point there. And, that's that when you're trying to optimize your customer experience, it's about more than just buying the technology. You actually have to train the employees to use it. You have to turn on the features, right? Contact center platforms these days are coming out with hundreds of new features every year. So if you
Yeah.
don't optimize those features and actually get your teams using them, then they don't do you any good, right? They don't
Yeah.
provide any value. So that's piece number one. And then piece number two of that is that when you're actually interacting with a company, these days, most consumers are willing to leave if they have a bad experience. There are varying ranges that studies will produce, but somewhere between 60 and 90% of consumers in today's market are willing to change if they have one bad experience.
Yeah.
So, to your point, there's a lot of value in investing in the people who are at that point of interaction, the people that are actually talking to your customers, because if you don't spend time training them or giving them the right tools, they're not going to be equipped to give that customer a great experience. And, if one of them has a bad experience, you might lose that customer.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a big risk of not working and being intelligent or being diligent and deliberate about your customer experience. But there's also a huge opportunity for value, right?
Mhm.
Where, McKinsey did a study over 2000, I think it was 2016 to 2021. And they looked at who they would call CX leaders and then CX laggards.
Mhm.
And, based on the maturity of their customer experience strategy. And the leaders grew in revenue by more than double what the laggards grew by. So, there's a big, potential stick, if you will, if you don't focus on customer experience, but there's also, a huge carrot for the companies that are forward thinking and are really deliberate about what they're doing for their
Yeah.
customers'
I mean,
experience.
it's funny. I think about brands that I've had excellent customer care with and how loyal I am to those companies, and ones that have had tremendous like short shrift with me as a customer. And it's funny. I mean, because I'm knowledgeable enough about the space, I'll sometimes say like, listen, I'm on the call because I want to purchase this product. I want
Yeah.
to do this with you. Work with me here. Like, let's get through this. But
Yeah.
it's an interesting one because obviously sometimes people, they only have the scripts that they have in front of them. They only can
Yeah.
do what they can do. I mean, when you look forward, Nick, I feel like with a space that you focus on is going to be front and center in the AI revolution for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, this is one of these areas because anything where there's just tons and tons of bodies sitting somewhere doing something is one of the areas that obviously AI talks about offering tremendous efficiencies to make those
Right.
people smarter and more effective. But what does the future look like for the contact center industry?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought up AI, and I know that's something that you've been really interested in the past as
Yeah.
well. I took a brief skim of your thesis.
Yeah.
Um,
Great.
yeah, which was really interesting. And I think that the future of contact center is absolutely being transformed in this very moment. There are constantly new tools coming out that are AI powered. And I think that a lot of people are worried about that AI displacing agents and,
Mhm.
removing the need for human jobs. I don't think
Right.
that's going to happen,
Yeah.
right? Especially when, current AI is really good, but it still has hallucinations. It still does things that a normal human wouldn't.
Right.
And when your customer is willing to leave after one bad experience, it's not a smart idea to make that AI your only way of giving customer experience. You're going to have a person there for when the AI can't handle it.
Yeah, and it
And
has to be AI that offers real value. I mean, I remember
right.
seeing some of these AI systems where we would have an agent and the customer would be irate about something, shouting down the phone, and the AI would be like, "You have an angry customer."
Yeah.
You're like, "Yeah, no.
Thanks. Yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
know that."
Yeah.
You know? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that what's really cool and encouraging about the tools that are coming out is that a lot of them are not focused on replacing the agent, they're focused on empowering the agent.
Yeah.
Right. So, trainings, evaluations, we can create a bot that will mimic a phone call with a customer so that when you're
Mhm.
training a new employee, you don't have to put them on live calls with a customer when they're brand new and risk them, not delivering a great experience and that customer going elsewhere. or
Yeah.
the agent just having a negative call and, their confidence being shot. Instead, you can have them train with a bot where it's mimicking what a customer call would look like and actively giving feedback throughout the call.
Yeah.
And we find that speed to proficiency is, 20, 30% higher that way. And there's no risk of having a bad customer or agent experience along the way. So that's a
Yeah.
good example of how we can empower agents to do better with these AI tools and to set them up for more success. And I think that's the way the industry is going, is figuring out how we can give our agents the power to give a good customer experience every time.
Yeah, think about it as really kind of a partnership and then utilizing it to do more for that agent, even to offer like more dimensions to the experience and a better solution. Nick, it's been great chatting with you.
Yeah,
If
you
someone
too,
wanted
Brett.
to learn more about what you are working on, what T-Tech Digital's doing, really kind of where the contact center space is going, where's the best place to reach you?
I would say the best place to reach me is probably my LinkedIn. You can reach out to me anytime there. My DMs are open. We get a lot of them, but obviously I try to read through and take a look at those. So that's an easy way to reach me. I would encourage, if there's anyone listening who's wondering how they're doing from an AI perspective right now and how prepared they are to bring AI into their customer experience in their contact center, I'd encourage them to check out our AI readiness assessment. I can send you a link to that, Bant, so you can put it in the show notes if you're
Yeah,
willing.
absolutely. I love
Yeah,
that. Yeah. I mean, I think that you got to find a way to start somewhere. And what a great tool that is that
yeah,
you're offering, Nick, to give people a chance to get a benchmark of what they're up to. Nick, thank you so much for being on the Uncaged show today. And
yeah,
we look forward to having you back.
yeah. Thank you for having me, Bant. Great to talk to you.
Cheers.